258 per pupil of spending. I'll refer back to that, so I'd just like to show you where it came from. The next slide is a breakdown of our Chapter 70. So this is where things are changing through the state. In row 1, that's our current Chapter 70. The next section, 2 through 5, this is our this is our calculation of Chapter 70. So they took our foundation budget, we just saw how that was calculated. They then subtract from that the required district contribution from our 18 sending towns. And we'll talk about that calculation in a couple minutes. So they subtract that, they come up to our foundation aid, which is what are they gonna give you in Chapter 70 state aid? So for this year, for 25, they calculated 18,252,075 for us. Well, if you look at that compared to what we're currently getting, it's less. They call that what they call hold harmless.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
We've heard
that's our least favorite word, least. Well, second least, I guess. So what that means is they would be giving us, if they gave us this, they would be cutting our Chapter 70 for the year. But they say, no, we're nice, we're not gonna do that, we're just not gonna give you an increase, except for the minimum, which, as of the governor's number, it was $30 per pupil, as in row 6.
But
As of the Senate, because the revenues from the millionaire's tax and other state revenues are coming in, they got some higher revenues in their April numbers. So, under the Senate budget, it's going up to actually 105 per pupil. So, if that holds true, we'll be getting up more. It gives us about 150,000 more in Chapter 70 that we see here. So, fingers crossed. But as we're stuck, I guess, in the governor's budget, we're getting that big $44,000 increase this year, Chapter 70. Cutting over to the other side, we've talked about our foundation enrollment to foundation budget. We'll get to, actually, I want to show you this. We'll talk about required district contribution right now. You can already tell, without me showing you any more of our budget, that the towns are burdening in total a $480,000 increase. Monty Tech's total required net school increase is going to $30,011,216, or a $525,195. That's our minimum, that's our increase we have to make, and you can tell it's going back onto the towns. Normally, I would tell you, just like happens in 24, your required net school spending equals your foundation budget. That's normally how it works. The reason why ours does not work is because we're a hold harmless district. There's 214 other hold harmless districts, so most schools in the state are being held harmless.
How do you get rid of that hold home? Yeah.
Well, so what happened was, it was kind of a perfect storm this year with the budget. Foundation budget goes up by inflation.
Right.
For the past 3 years, inflation was super high for these purposes, and they capped it. They cap it at 4%. This year, the foundation budget inflation factor was 1.35%. So much lower increases to the spending per pupil. And then smaller Chapter 70 increases as a result of that. It kind of collided where most school districts are,
You can't. That's
right.
the only way?
It'll,
the formula basically sets it pretty much.
Yeah, the formula.
And listen, I don't know if we've met with a town financial group that hasn't said, what about that formula? You know,
Right.
We
Well, they
recognize-
reviewed that too, a couple of years ago, or they were gonna review the formula, right? Or they did, they changed it, but it was worse.
right, we're in what's called the Student Opportunity Act. So
Yeah.
the Student Opportunity Act was spread out over 6 years. which looked at these certain foundation budget categories. Guidance, special education, health insurance, and it was increasing those not only by inflation, but by additional monies, because they truly, just by increasing them over, inflation, it wasn't keeping up with where actual spending was. You know, like, they're proposing 2.9 million, well, it comes to 3.5 million for health insurance. That's closer to where we're at, but we're more in the fours for health insurance. And if I start adding stuff, so it doesn't quite keep up with the actual spending, but yet, if you're not in a urban, truly urban setting, you're not getting the Chapter 70 money.
If you look down the
stated.
list, it's the Springfield.
Yeah, I
it's the
know,
Brockton.
we've been through this with the club and.
Yeah, it's, yeah,
Right.
it's the way it's working. The
Okay.
state is hearing this. What they'll do, I don't
It's a
know.
different story.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
But DESI owns the formula, right? They're the ones that come up with the formula, or does the state come up with the
the state does.
Yeah, the state sets it.
Yep. Chapter 70 is actually a Mass General Law statute.
Okay.
Yep. So we've kind of beat that
Yeah.
to a pulp there. So I'm moving on to the budget summary. So I'll point out FY '25, that's where I'm working. So our net school spending, that's the minimum required by the state that we have to spend on education, and it does not get to include transportation, debt service, bonds, school lunch, stuff like that. So it does not include any of those items. So that's our base. Our transportation is $2,516,010 for FY '25. We're going into our second year of our new 3-year bus contract. So came in at, it's a 4% increase year over year. And the additional less than a percent is our increase in our special education transportation costs. So that's contractual, that's what that is. Our above net schools, oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask you, do you feel your transportation aid's gonna see an increase this year?
They, through the Senate budget, they have yet to increase transportation aid.
Because it's 85%, right?
Yeah.
I think in the
Yeah,
Senate, okay.
yeah,
Everyone's made well, not everyone, all the regional schools obviously have made a big push. And to be honest, we thought for sure it was gonna change, and we're kind of surprised it happened.
Yeah.
not yet, yep. So, hopefully. The next number is our above net school spending. So again, this is what we're spending above that net school spending number on operating costs. Again, we are under a percent. So we keep it as low to the floor of spending as possible. Our capital budget, if you take our 460 and our 50 for vehicles is 510, because those are both part of the capital budget, and you compare that to the 500,000 in our current budget, that's an increase of $10,000 overall for that. And mainly our capital budget is made up of replacing our bleachers, which will take up that, pretty much that whole capital budget. We try to keep, actually I'll talk to you about our capital expenditures when I go on the next slide.
Have you thought about having the kids stand instead of
I
sit?
would love that. You know, it's the parents that are actually.
Yeah.
So we got our total budget, 33,334,174, which is a 2.46% increase over the current year, largely driven by the net school spending increase and really our transportation costs for that. You can see our Chapter 70, we talked about that, comes back down to our required minimum, so that's piece 1 of the assessment. Piece 2 of an assessment is our transportation and other costs. So you can see the 2.8 is strictly just the transportation and the above net school spending to come to there. We're subtracting out our estimated transportation aid. Our regional transportation fund, that's a revolving fund that the school committee voted on. And what happens with that is if we get additional money in our transportation aid, the school committee will vote to put that money into this regional transportation fund rather than having it filter through E&D. What happens then is that we must use it for the next fiscal year to reduce community assessments for transportation. So what this 150 that's in there is telling you is that if you look at the FY '24 estimated transportation aid of 1.7 million, we are estimating that we're going to get more than that when the final numbers come out. So the school committee will vote to put 150,000 of that overage into this fund, which will then be used, we're proposing be used to offset the FY '25 budget. They're also proposing using 250,000 from our E&D account for this section. So that puts the net transportation and operating portion of the assessment at 487,958, which is a slight decrease from the current year. The next component of our budget, of our assessments, is capital. So again, that was capital and vehicles from above, which is 510, and again, the school committee has voted to use 200,000 again from E&D to reduce that assessment, leaving a net assessment of 310,000 to the communities. We currently do not have any bonds, so there's nothing in that section of the assessment. So that leaves total assessments at an increase of 12,446,190, or an increase of 454,793. The next slide gives you the balances of the accounts I spoke of. So certified excess and deficiency came in at 1.3 million. So the district is voting to use 450,000 from that. So school districts, as you know, you have a regional district too, are allowed to have up to 5% of their budget in E&D. This puts us at about 2.5% of our budget left in E&D after we use it to offset assessment. The budget includes a, $25,000 transfer into our stabilization account. So our stabilization account balance currently is $346,570. We try, this is what I was going to talk to you about earlier, we try to keep our capital assessment to our communities under $450,000 annually to keep it stable. We are slowly building this stabilization account up to go for those medium to larger repairs that we need, so we can use that to offset so that we can keep our community assessment stable. We're currently going out for engineering study for our main electrical gear, which is as old as the building.
As old as
They
the
built the
speedboat.
building around this thing. We know that's possibly coming in at $1 million, but if that goes down, So that's where this account, our plans for that. In our OPEB account, I like to say, it's not big, but it's there. So that's the balance. The next slide is a summary by function. So you can kind of get a nice snapshot. The budget book that I've given you, everybody is a lot more detailed for your reading pleasure, for if you want to fall asleep at night, or you have jury duty or something, there you go. That'll give you more detail, but this is a nice little snapshot of the changes to the budget. And the next slide is going to talk to you about the significant ones. And if you have any questions about any others, please ask. But the significant ones, salaries. Salaries are built into several of the functions, but across the board, we have a 3% COLA for all staff, and it also includes step and column movement. We are going into year 2 of our 3-year collective bargaining agreement with our teachers and our custodians. And so that's stable for the next couple of years. So that gives you about $500,000 increase. The next large component that I spoke to you about earlier was our pupil transportation, again, year 2 of our 3-year contract, 4%, as well as special education transportation increase. Our third item is built through several of the accounts as well, which is technology. So our network is at its end of life, so we're replacing our entire network. We're using our E-rate funds to really offset it, because it started out 400 and X thousand, but through our E-rate funds, it's closer to high twos. So that's where that increase is coming in, as well as we're vamping up our cybersecurity protection.
Yes, so, we've been sharing with all the towns that we meet with and everything else. And this is not the first time, we obviously had to meet certain standards. But, right after Columbus Day weekend last fall in October, we had a cyber attack at the school. Fortunately, to the wonderful work of our IT crew, the protections they had in place, we did not lose any data. We were able to hold on to all that. But it was definitely a wake-up call, and, we had to go through the legal pieces of notifying, I think we had about 8,000,
8 to 10.
that we had to notify in terms of, personal information, and whether or not it was, we had to go on the safe side, but whether or not, it had been taken and used or something. But because of that, significant piece of this piece of the budget is different hardware, software, network materials, and everything else to protect in terms of what our network has. We put this stuff into place immediately, and we were already seeing that we were getting, you suddenly realize, wow, you're getting hit a lot more than you think you are. And it was a pretty big wake-up call. I highly recommend, but for your own town, do it, because the work that it takes, and we got lucky. Our insurance paid for all the legal support that we went through, helping us with the
All
mailings
the
and everything
technology
else.
support,
Correct.
cyber liability insurance
Yeah.
specifically, yes.
Yeah,
We gotta
absolutely.
offer like credit reporting and all that.
We
right?
did, we
Yeah.
offered
did.
credit
Yep.
reporting, yep.
So
Lots.
that's one of the big pieces, again, we had made sure our communities and all the folks we had to contact know, we'll go on to make sure that each individual town knew why there's this big number, and again, part of it is the end of life, but a huge part of it was the cyber attack.
No, you had the insurance already?
We did,
Yeah.
through Maya, our
Yep.
insurance company,
Okay.
thankfully.
Yeah,
That we're
yeah.
telling that tale too, wherever we go, make sure you have cyber
Yeah.
liability
Have
insurance.
something.
It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, and you have to, by law, I think it's like Mass General Law, Chapter 95 or 96, you have to offer like 18 months credit monitoring for everybody.
Yeah, so fortunately, we did that through our, through the insurance company provided legal.
Yeah.
They took care of all
Nice.
that. We put the list of affected individuals together, and then we sent it to them, and they handled all of that. Above and beyond, we also offer identity protection as an optional employee deduction. For 1 year, the district is paying for all our staff for a year. So yes, but it was.
And just another tip we also learned was archiving. Half the reason why we had to have such a high number is we had, data from things that went back to, 2005, 2006. So all that should have been up on the cloud, it
Yeah.
should have been separated
Yep.
and everything else. So again, take a look at your archives.
Changed our policies and procedures around a lot of things. Yes. All right, so that's those pieces, the large expenditures. The next component, slide is contributions by member town. So you can, first part is foundation enrollment. So we'll focus on Barre. Your foundation enrollment went from 42 to 45, or an increase of 3 students. And the next two are the required minimum contributions, which went from $316,705 to $349,180, or an increase of $32,475. The next slide I'd like to show you, and I'm sure you saw it, if you already saw Quavin's presentation, I'm sure you saw this. This is how the state calculates your required minimum contribution. So if you guys feel comfortable I'll go through this in detail, but if you've already seen this, know it, I'll skip through this. It's up to you, what level of detail you want me to go over.
I'll leave it.
I'm comfortable with it. I mean, I don't know how everyone else feels, but
Okay, so you know they just use your property values and the income of the citizens, and they come up with a town's ability to pay, they call it, which ends up being row 26 for Barre this year, which is total 4,338,017. So
They
that,
said they're comfortable, so we're gonna pass out the quiz now.
well, there will be a quiz.
Dan's gonna take it for all of us.
Awesome.
it'll be a quick quiz, I hope. Multiple choice.
So the next slide again just shows you how that 4.338 number gets apportioned. That's the lower half, rows 5 through 9. You can see your enrollment at Quabbin and your enrollment at Monty Tech. So they take, this is where those numbers come into play. They say Barre has 45 students at Monty Tech. We're gonna multiply that number by the very first number I gave you, and what was it? 20,958. You failed the quiz. No, 20,258. And that's how they come up. I did too, I know. So that's how they get the 911,595 for your foundation enrollment piece of Monty Tech's total foundation budget. They do the same process for the Quabbin number. Then they say, what percentage is Monty Tech's foundation budget to the total? It's 8.05%. So what they then do is take 8.05% of what they came up with to be your required contribution, which was the 4,338,017. So for Monty Tech, Barry's number is 349,180. That's how they come up with the required contribution. That's the biggest portion of your assessment. So this is a snapshot of 2 years and a breakdown of the different components of Monty Tech's assessment and how things change. So you can see, looking at the required minimum, we just saw how that worked, so it went up 32,475. Barry's portion of our transportation and operating assessment decreased by 148, and the capital assessment increased by 387. So those all added give a proposed assessment of 372,782. Or an increase of 32,714, which you can see is largely driven by the required minimum contribution. Only a couple $100 is actually attributed to the piece Monty Tech kind of controls, I guess. And you can see on the far right, that equates to the town paying $8,284 per pupil. The next slide goes through that same information I just gave you, but for every town. So you can kind of see the breakout. The numbers that I didn't go through on the previous slide, if you're looking at Barre, we talked about your foundation enrollment. The next column, your percentage of operating, that is the 45 divided into the 1476 total. So that's where Barre becomes 3.05% of our operating budget, or the operating assessment piece. The school attending children, this is all students eligible to be enrolled in grades 1 through 12, no pre-K or K. I get this number annually from the superintendent of schools office. So the number we have is 702. Divide that into our total school attending children number of 24,956. Barre becomes 2.81% of our capital. That number is significant in 2 ways. It's Barre's percentage of our capital assessment that we looked at. It's also Barre's quota for the freshman class. So the school committee voted back in April, 355 for the freshman class. So Barre is 2.81% of that freshman class, and that's how the quota is arrived at annually. And then all the other numbers we kind of went through, you can see how it compares, all the towns. The slide I like to end with is just to show you where Monty Tech is in comparison to the vocational schools throughout the state. And you can see, we're like right in the middle. This is FY '21. It was the most updated data that DESE had put out. So you can see we're spending spending $22,165 per pupil in FY '21, and where we rank with the other towns, other vocational schools. That's my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm sorry I took long.
No, that was good. So 372, 782 is what you're requesting from there?
Yes.
Just so that I'm clear when I write this
Yes.
down. Okay.
Please. The only reason I say please, we had one of our towns unfortunately put the FY '24 number instead of the FY
On their warrant.
Oh, perfect, okay.
So the enrollment change for Barre moving up to 3, is that based off the freshman class assessment, or is that just like because of natural attrition, people graduating?
Probably, it's with the COVID year, so we had 2 or 3, because of COVID, very small senior classes graduate recently. So we were able to bring in more freshmen. You know, we had, 2 years ago, we had 365 freshmen that we were bringing in. But that's started to balance out. We lost kids during COVID, just like every district did.
Yeah.
So it's just starting to balance out a little bit, so, but it's between 355, 365, it's gonna be pretty standard there.
Okay.
Yeah, Barry has more students in the freshman class above the quota. Yep. And I'll explain, one of those pupils is actually a out-of-district student, but they were school choice. So the state has a quirky,
Sure.
state quirky.
Every state does.
Do you wanna explain
Yeah,
it?
so they have a practice where if a student choices into one of our sending districts, what they're considered is they're now considered part of that cohort. And what the state has basically said is if that kid has been with that cohort through elementary school into middle school, they don't want to pull that kid out of that cohort. So they allow that kid to essentially apply to Monty Tech as if they were an in-town resident, just like they are for others. So every once in a while, we have towns that a random town has a kid coming to us, but it's because they were part of a school choice cohort.
So what happens is they're still billed like school choice.
Yeah.
So it's not, but what happens is it takes a quota space from your town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they count as a very
Yeah.
student.
Yes,
Yeah.
in your quota.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because they've gone. Now, the state has since done away, they've set a sunset clause on that school choice. But we think it's only for kids who have entered school and are no further along than grade 2 or 3
Yeah,
at
it still
this
has
point.
many years to go.
Still has many years, but it does have a sunset clause eventually, so.
And I think we also mentioned to you though that a few years ago, we did switch it that it used to be if a student from Barre left, we took the next kid from the waiting list in terms of their score. Now, it's the next kid from Barre.
Okay.
So it's always okay if the kid leaves, as long as there's someone on the wait list from that town, they're replaced by somebody from that town.
Mhm.
So your number will stay pretty consistent.
Yes.
There were some years, especially with some of our larger, Fitchburg in particular, where they would get 15, 20 extra kids on there, but they obviously had it budgeted for it because they're looking at the quota number. So that's one of the reasons why we went to fill with the towns,
Yeah.
Yeah, but we still have Holden, they were about 14 kids shy this past year of their quota, and Harvard is about 12. So still those amount of slots are available for the open wait list, but pretty much beyond that number, it's, if you have a kid waiting, they're the next one to fill the spot if somebody from your town leaves. And that's, we just did that 2 years ago, so we're starting to see that come into effect now. So you'll notice it more, your numbers will
Stable.
stay a little more stable.
Is it the host town that decides which vocational school they partner? Because like Holden, I think they do Montechusett and Bay Path, right?
So Wachusett's district, their towns are split between, us and, yeah, I think it is Bay Path, 'cause I think, so Rutland goes to Paxton, go to Bay
Yeah.
Path, and Sterling, Princeton, and Holden come to us.
Okay.
So it's a little quirky.
Kind of like, okay, because it was at Barry and Hubbardston go up to you.
Correct,
Yes,
correct,
yes.
yes, and there's a bunch of the, I don't even remember all the.
I think they go to Tantasco maybe.
Yeah, Oakham and Hardwick go to
And you raise
Pathfinder.
Pathfinder,
Pathfinder, yeah.
That's why if we are gonna have if you are gonna have a school choice, which I don't see on here that you do, it would be to Pathfinder.
Yep.
That's mostly the ones, that we would see from Barry, just for the proximity, I think.
Excellent.
Okay.
Anyone have any questions? No? I think we're good.
Oh, thank you
Great.
guys so
No,
much for
very
your
happy.
time.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, and we're moving on to the ACO. You presenting for the ACO, I imagine?
Yeah, it's a contract, the regional animal control
Yep.
officer, and their request is $19,179. So on a contract with them, it's kind of like a regional dispatch, that's the number they gave us. Goes by population, get in touch with the chief of Rutland, and he's the one who does all the data for it.
How are they doing with the reorganization? Do you know? Do you hear anything about that?
That I have not heard anything of. For what, the animal control?
No? Oh, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, animal control officer.
Council on Aging.
I couldn't hear very well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I thought Council on Aging at first too.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that's all I have to say is regional animal control officer. I've been talking back and forth with the chief. He goes by the population, and then he asked, first I had a different number, and he was just a estimate, and I said, no, I want exact, so he gave me this number. So this is the exact number, the 19,179 for the.
That seems
regional-
like a hefty increase though.
Well, I'm not sure. So I will say, as you, we're gonna talk about regional dispatch next,
Yeah,
I'm not sure the numbers were 100% correct
okay.
Mm.
on the last one. So I
Yeah.
think if we look, I don't have it with me, but I think we're already over on the regional animal control.
Oh, we're over on them
You can
again
share
as
it
well?
with me. Do you have it on your phone? I don't have the.
Yeah, let me see, I was looking at it. Budget.
I can guarantee that this is the exact number for FY '25.
Yeah, we're over by 3,500.
Right, so I did notice that when I was looking through it, cause I also was thinking the same thing that you were thinking of, why are we getting up there so high? This goes by our population, right? So,
Mm.
you know, I don't know what happened. I can't tell you, but.
So we overpaid them, or we
Well,
underpaid them
the
originally?
town
Under budgeted.
approved, so the town approved 15,700 at town meeting. But I'm not sure if that number got back to these.
Right, that number was incorrect, apparently.
So there's no recourse for the town in these situations, like, we don't stop paying
So
them.
unfortunately, we can't stop paying them just because we may have had an error or not. I
Yeah.
know, this will go forward, we'll see that.
Yeah, it seems
I
like-
have concrete evidence, I don't have it here, that it was our error. I mean, I don't know about this one, I can look back in my
I like
emails
it.
and check,
Yeah.
but, I mean, they were very responsive, they gave me
Yeah,
information, you know, quickly, so. And that would make more sense if that's where we're over, comes a little more closer to that number that the FY '25 amount is.
And that's split between, like, that budget is split between
Other towns.
Other
Don't
towns,
ask me
yeah.
the towns, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Rutland. I
but
think they're stationed out of Rutland,
They
right?
are stationed
Yeah.
out of Rutland, yes, that's why I had to go to get the amount.
They are stationed.
Mhm.
They only deal with domesticated animals.
You should be the dog officer, Dave.
It's, well, the animal control, it's not just
Yeah.
dogs anymore. I mean, I guess they call them cats.
Cats.
Not raccoons, though.
No.
Not raccoons. All right, so that's the budget for the animal control officer. Rutland Regional Dispatch, we wanna revisit, right?
So I just really wanted to just touch base with everyone, because you had asked me to get you the packet, find out what happened with the, I know Dan had brought it up to them, asking why the amount was different. So I finally did hear back, I guess all my emails were going to the spam, they said, so I was like, oh, so I must have emailed him, at least, that's why I included, I think I included you, Dan,
Yeah.
on it, but I was like, oh, he's gonna not believe me, but I had been reaching out. So this is the packet that you ended up receiving, I think it's gonna be in your email. And there was an email that had gone out, unfortunately, again, it was $166,000. We ended up, it was our error on the $130,000. It was in an email, so.
Okay, so that number that we're, cause that number we did have, and then it was reverted to that 150.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
can send you the email too, Dan, if you want.
On that, cause I think that was a last minute change at the meeting, before town meeting. I have to go back through my notes on that.
I'll send you that email, so you can
Yeah, I
see that.
appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And they're still in discussion. I know there was pros and cons with the Rutland Regional Dispatch on, moving, changing their model.
They're
Yeah,
putting
that's,
it to
that's the question
districts.
that I was trying to ask.
Yeah.
I have not heard anything yet, but I know that when I went to the meeting, they had talked about possibly, like, when they came here, they talked about doing the districts, having like, person from each town be part of that, so.
We talked about it before. There's pros and cons. It could mean a higher expense to the town,
Yeah.
but
Right.
there's more, you have more control. You have a say in
Or
the,
some control.
well, yes, yeah, you have, at least you have a say in the process.
Yeah.
But it can, the con is it can have a higher cost to the town. Because we did talk about it with, when Jessica was here, maybe 2 years ago. That question came up. Because I guess the town's like, was in a 25-year contract. And we're like, whoa, that's a long contract,
Yeah, especially when we keep going up, and now we're like 176,
Yeah.
so that's a lot.
Yeah. Finance committee, on to finance
So I
committee.
put that on for you, because I can't make your decision for you, so I figured you guys could talk it over and decide if you wanna keep that, because you are my last one to put on my budget
So-
report.
So finance committee expenses, we usually pay for like the annual town finance committee, finance association of town finance committees, like the memberships there.
Your budget was fine. with the way
Yeah,
it is.
a few of that, and then the reserve funds, we did bump up to 20,000. I think in this budget year, it'd be nice to get more in there.
I was thinking the same thing, I was thinking maybe, because I'm in the process of doing my budget, I started looking at our revenue, like what we're getting for the cherry sheets, the estimated local receipts. We're very tight, so our revenue is very tight.
Mhm.
So I would say obviously 20,000 for right now, and maybe in the fall, when we have like a full picture, when the tax rate is actually there, we can really see 100%
Mhm.
how much revenue, because you're gonna realize we're going by the estimated revenue, and I believe Jean sent that over to everyone.
Yeah, it was,
So,
2 weeks ago, maybe?
yeah, but there's so much that comes into the picture that I've been looking, I even got the new growth, roughly we're at like 33,000 for the new growth, but obviously that's gonna be more, right? So I'm not gonna.
Where
really
does that come
see it.
from?
The new growth?
Yeah.
The new growth comes from the assessor's office, so it comes from like the new buildings, any improvements that come on a building, they go out and they do inspections on them. So we wanna capture as much as we possibly can. I know Jesse's in the process of using real estate, Realtor.com, he can go in, he can see, maybe they have a new, new floor, a new addition, or even just even driving around. That's very important for the assessor's office.
Yeah, to have proper valuation, but then the folks, taxes go up.
Right, that's right.
Because the
You're
value of their
welcome.
property increases.
That's
Where,
true.
where do they get the formula? Like my property is taxed X, like where do they come up with X?
So they have a program.
Yep.
Again, I'm just gonna tell you by what I kind of know, 'cause when I used to work in the assessor's office.
Okay.
But there's a program, and they can go ahead and they sketch out the houses, and they will grade your home,
Mhm.
ABC, whatever, what they think it may be. And and then it goes by the condition of your home. It goes by how many rooms you have in your home, bedrooms, how many square footage, what your square footage is, you know, how big if you have a shed out there, maybe you have an in-ground pool, that's gonna add value. Anything, you could have a 3-car garage, that's gonna add some value. So anything that they put on that sketch, that's what, they make a field card, and then that's how it goes ahead and gets assessed. We do have a recertification personal property and real estate right now. We just did a request for proposals that we just did. So every 5 years, the state comes in and they go ahead and they'll randomly pick and they check everything else with a fine tooth comb. So, you know, that's how that goes. And then the state is actually the one who determines what the tax rate actually is.
I'm gonna knock my playhouse over, I'm getting taxed on it. Only $200 a year, so, or the taxes are $200 a year.
I'll tell you, I don't know if I go get a field card. I mean, you can even go online.
Oh, no, I've looked
Do
on
it.
the
It's
tax
great.
map
Yeah,
a bunch, yeah.
It's really interesting to see.
Is anyone on the committee opposed to the reserve fund amounts?
Nope. Nope. I mean, depending on what, how the budget works out, I mean, we could go for more. If
I
it
definitely
works
think,
out. Yeah.
maybe a special town meeting I think you should be at 40,000. You
Yeah.
know, this, the whole purpose of a reserve account is just in case an emergency happens. Like, say I have a water, you know, something in the basement, like we have, as we all know, flooding. Oh my goodness, I might need, you know, we have to come to the finance committee. That is, you know, I said like the board of assessors has their overlay account, this is your account, so you have the ultimate say as to where, you know, where this funds goes. These are for emergency purposes, and that's what that's for.
We used it one year because the chief needed to, he was spending money on overtime for like, and we partially funded, a full-time officer out of
Yeah.
it.
You can do that too. I mean, you do know that, obviously, there was some talk about, you know, I know we're gonna end up having a possible transfer because the contracts have, but that was all noted. Obviously, not all of it, but some of it might have to go towards those contracts, because I know they put a substantial
Yeah.
amount in there.
Well, that's not a revolving fund anyway, so that
It's
would
not a
go into,
revolving
interdepartmental transfers at the end, right?
Yes, yes, with your signatures. of course.
Yeah, yeah. All right. And we're off to potential select board warrant articles. So this looks like it's the whole meeting.
So, yeah, so we're not doing that, obviously. I'm only gonna pick out a few. This is just like a rough draft. You guys can keep it, look at it, because these are the main ones that they always, have on there. I went through the attorney and he just put this in there. Obviously, I need to put some money or some funds in here for some things like snow and ice. We have, not much though, we're only like an estimate around 9,000.
It could still snow, right?
No.
I hope not, I hope not. You
Come
know,
on.
then we have to do the, enterprise and water, enterprise budget fund, but that again, we'll look at that after. I just wanna touch on two of them, the same two that I went to the select board. I wanna just pass out, the first one, I didn't make a copy for everyone, cause I don't wanna waste a ton of paper, so we have to put one at the end and one right over here. This number is, it's a local, Article 15. I think it's something we need to maybe think about. They're always trying to we need to somehow find a way to bring the town. Oh, this is a local tax option, it's for the meals.
Yeah.
And what I did is I gave a little, and I'll give mine to someone after the fact too. But if you look on the third page, it explains what a local option meals excise tax is. And it's basically, I'm just gonna do it in layman terms, so 6.25% is what our state tax is, right? So it'd be 7%. So 6.25% goes to the state, 0.75% would actually come back to the town. Believe it or not, this little bit actually helps us in revenue. I know it sounds, oh, why would we put the burden on the taxpayers? I get that, but in the same breath, all that, so if it's $10, it's roughly an estimated 70 cents. If it's $20, maybe it's $1.40, but if you look, if you see the next page, there's 252 towns that have already elected for this out of 352, so a third, hasn't had it. And if you look down, on mine, I actually highlighted some of them. Actually, you can have mine.
Yeah.
It's such a minuscule amount, and I think it's the only way that you're gonna capture folks visiting the town.
Yes, and it's a good thing because think about this way. This is how I always use Dunkin' Donuts because we all like Dunkin' Donuts. I think maybe some don't, but you go to okay, come to Barre, right now, we're not paying it, but you know what, I'm gonna go to Athol, I think I'm gonna go to Market Basket, and on my way home, I'm gonna stop and get myself a coffee at Dunkin's. They're charging you,
Athol's
they
charging
have the
us.
meals tax, that's just an example, I use that one because I know it's close here,
Yeah.
and I'm sure a lot of people go to the plaza and everything, so I think it's a very important, and we have a lot of places, and it's not a burden, like the people that are owning the businesses, it's on us, we're the one who
Yeah.
pays it, so
Yeah.
if you go to Stone Tower, you can still get yourself a beer,
Yeah.
you know, you're
Or
just
two.
gonna pay the,
Yeah.
well, there you go, the EXO too, so maybe you're paying like 30 cents or 60 cents on 2 beers. It's right on your receipt, but if you go to all these towns, you will see this increase. I think if the other third of the towns probably knew about this, they probably would wanna try to adopt it as well. I think it's a very good way for us to capture some revenue in our town to help bring us up.
Some of these towns have had it for some time too.
2010, I know, it's
Athol's
like.
had it for a while, right?
9, yeah.
crazy.
It is crazy, but I think a lot of people don't know
15.
about it.
Yeah, and it's pretty consistent, the towns mostly 7.75.
Yes.
You don't think
You
twice
can keep
about
that,
it
dear.
when you,
Oh,
when you
okay.
go out to
I'll
eat
make
in a
myself know, I
town.
know where to get all the information. Huh?
You don't think twice about it when you go out to eat in a
You
town.
don't, you're not
Yeah.
gonna notice that 0.75%. Think of it as like 7%, you know, if it's 6.25 goes to state, and then we get to, lucky us, we get to capture the other. Because anyone who's going to one of those other towns that's doing it, they're gonna
Yeah,
capture it.
almost every other
So
town.
what does the state charge to collect it?
I don't, honestly, nothing, not that
They
I know
give it-
of.
I'm
Yeah,
surprised, they
no,
didn't find a way.
That comes
They
to
get a
us,
slice,
but it adds up, it really
Mm.
does add up.
possibly.
That was a big, during COVID, negotiating with towns. It was one of the only revenue sources coming in for a lot of
Yes.
towns, because they
Yes.
were spending a lot of money on to-go food
We
in
can
a
only
lot of
put up so
places.
much real estate property, right, we only have so much land we can actually build on, or that's even allowed to be built on, so.
Yeah.
We have to think of ways, what else can we do, I mean, this is just one way, I honestly, we have to really try, we have to try to come up and think of other ways as well, you know, but it's something.
Yeah, it's a challenging situation where costs keep increasing, and by a town like Barre, you know, being very rural and not a lot of industry, your tax base is the residents.
Right, but it's not gonna hurt, it should not hurt the businesses, it's, the burden is basically when we go out, you're gonna go out, we're gonna go out, so you're still gonna go and get that grinder, right? You're still gonna go, can't imagine you're gonna say, oh, I'm not gonna pay 70 cents to go get a grinder or a salad or whatnot. And I'd rather us benefit than another town.
Does that money have to get allocated to something specific?
So if you read in there, I gave a little description like
Sorry.
as to what, no, I want you guys to all see exactly what it entails. It gives like a little description, like restaurants, anything like, you know, like you went to the grocery store, anything that's already like a packaged deal, like a pizza, if you buy pizza there, that would be considered part of this.
But can the funds that are earned off the taxes, right?
Right, like when we get the money, it just goes into like,
The general
the
fund?
It goes into the
fund?
general
Okay,
fund.
that's what I was
It's like
wondering,
it's
yeah.
a regular, it's a revenue.
okay.
Yeah, it's not like,
It has to go
yeah,
to something specific.
Right, no.
It's just
it's not like a CPA or something
No,
like
no,
that,
no,
yeah.
no, no. And then the last one I just wanted to go over, just to bring it up, Article 17 is Department of Public.
Did we decide on 16 before we jump ahead? Is that like,
So, that one I'm not sure of, I'm still in the process of, so my thought process, I'll tell you my thought process, again, you can definitely disagree with me, but I think a cruiser is it's not really an operating expense, to me, it's a capital asset. Usually capital assets go on to articles as a warrant form, right?
yeah.
So operating budgets are different, that's what we use to actually, I'm not saying that they don't use that to like, but they don't, it's a capital asset, so capital assets should be on a warrant.
Yeah.
Operating expenses, I think of like the salaries of people, overtime, part-time, your supplies you're working with, I mean, there's so many other things that you need to operate to make sure we're getting through. I know they need a police cruiser, I'm not saying that, but again, we have to look at that as a capital asset. And I'm not against it by any means, I just,
Yeah.
we need to make sure it's in our budget.
Oh,
That's
no.
what I'm more concerned about too, is our revenue that's coming in, we need to make sure we have all that.
100%.
In peace.
Best practice, so from the Association of Town Finance Committees, is when the town sets a precedent of so many years of buying an asset, it no longer is a capital asset, right? That now becomes part of an operating
And is that
expense.
something you really wanna do? Right now, I don't know.
I'm not sure if we can do right now.
No, I'm in the same
Yeah.
boat with you, cause I can tell you right now that I'm in the process of doing my whole budget. And I'm telling you, I am very tight, like I was like, oh, I don't even know if we can put, and besides like snow and ice that we have to put on here, we're like that close.
So there were no other financial related articles requested by any of the other departments?
Nope, nope, I will tell you the one thing we are gonna see on, which I wanted to touch base with this too with you. Remember I told you we had to go to the Board of Assessors and ask about the overlay, see if they would give us some money back?
Yeah.
They worked very well with us. They actually had $385,000 in their overlay, in their abatement exemption account. So the town accountant and I went down there and she talked with them, because we have a few deficit accounts that we really need to be brought up. And if we do not get these deficits account brought up, we are going to continually hit free cash. We don't want that to happen. They were very understanding, they listened to us, and they were willing to give us an estimated amount of $212,000. So with that, those funds, we had 3 deficit accounts. Here it is. We had the CARES Act, $151,000 deficit. So that's something that you will see on here that has to go through annual town meeting for the people to vote on. It's very important that we pay this, because if we don't pay it out of this account, we're gonna get hit again with we're gonna keep getting hit if this doesn't get taken care of. Actually, we had 4 of them. We had another one, it was a permit account, or grant or something like that, it was like for $41,000, and then we had 2 other $10,000 accounts. When you add all that up, it comes to like I said, approximately $212,000. But with that being said, them releasing those funds to us, it's gonna give us a nice, fresh, clean start, which is exactly where we want to be right now in the town of Barre. But it's gonna have to go to annual town meeting, and it's extremely important that these funds get paid off, so we are not hitting deficit anymore. I don't foresee us getting a huge free cash amount, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with us just not being in the red. I don't wanna see us be negative $62,000, because that's the whole reasoning behind this. Going forward, we are looking at all grants, we're making sure that everything's being, we're gonna make sure that all reimbursements are being reimbursed. The big thing about a grant is you get a grant, right? You get one, it's usually reimbursement grants from the state. So you go ahead and you receive them. A lot of times the town accountant was not receiving these contracts, which is now why I am signing off on the contracts. And then I make sure I send them to her, and it's important that I see them, because then I can always make sure that we're gonna go out and reach out and get our funds back. You go ahead, you spend these funds, I get the invoices, I can send them back, write a letter, make sure the town is going to get our funds, so we are no longer hitting deficit on these grants. It's great to get the grants, but you have to get the money back for the grants. Because it does us no, it's not helping us out if we're not getting those funds back, it's putting us in a deficit.
Okay. And is that, so what was the challenge with the CARES Act account?
I'm not exactly sure what happened, I think it just kinda.
Cause that was
So we didn't
the,
have the CARES account was an account that you had at a certain time to give it to the state, report it, and the state would then reimburse those funds. I don't believe it was reported, so those funds were never reinstated. That's the reason.
So we were spending money that we weren't submitting the receipts for to get reimbursed.
and that was the very first round of COVID, right? The CARES Act
CARES Act is right, yeah, then
before the
ARPA came out.
okay.
But ARPA's the same thing, we have to make sure we're
Mhm.
doing the reporting.
Mhm.
I just did a reporting, we have a consultant that we're using, and she's making sure that all our reporting is getting done. So we have till December 31st, 2024 to go ahead and get all our ARPA reporting done. We have till December 31st, 2026 to make sure everything gets expended. We want to spend every penny.
Has every penny been allocated for
No,
opera
but
yet?
it's getting there,
Yeah.
which is good. We're being very cautious on how we're using it, and I think that's a
We
good
pay
thing.
CARES Act back with it?
We tried, we honestly, we asked, the auditor said no.
Yeah.
That was my first thing too. I was hoping, but no such luck.
All right.
What department was giving us the 212?
The
Board of
assessment,
Assessors, and we're very grateful for them. I just want to make that quite clear that
Yeah.
they were very,
It was the town's
accommodating.
money anyways.
Technically, it's the Board of Assessors' money. They
Yeah.
could say
We
no
gave
to
it
us.
to
If they looked at us and said, nope, we don't wanna give you that, they don't have to. And there's nothing we can do, no annual town meeting, nothing. They can keep those funds if they choose to. So that's why I say I'm very grateful, and I'm sure the town of Barre is grateful. We wanna make that quite clear. And we're going to Article 17, and that's the last one.
Yeah, go to Article 7.
So Article 17 is obviously still a big discussion. Put it on there, it is something that is going to go on, we just have to, this is for more efficiency. The selectmen will be finalizing it more when they go, we have a DPW commission meeting on the 22nd. Obviously, we wanna bring them up to speed on it as well, and, you know, get their comments as well, and see where they're at, where they stand, but it is something that should be going on the annual town meeting. I can't say.
It's creating a DPW from 3 separate departments, is that what it's
So
doing?
the whole structure is, you know, with the legislature right now, so we want to amend that. And, I don't wanna say too much, cause I'd rather them have the discussion
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But I can say, yes, create a roadway commission, have the sewer, the water, so, the roadway would be in charge of the roadway, sewer in charge of sewer, water in charge of water.
How is it run now?
So right now, it's all together as one, and with this one, the highway superintendent would be with the select board, like a personnel, it'd be almost like how the police are, the fire, it'd be like everyone working as the same. So it'd be amended to like, the personnel would be the kind of the same, how the boards technically work. Right now, it's not working like that, right? It's just 9 people on the commission and a 9th of a vote. Is that how we wanna say it? I don't know, it's one of those things that no towns really have anymore. I think we're like maybe 1 to 3 towns, cause most towns abolish, they usually just abolish them completely.
Yeah.
So it's very important that we look at this and consider making us, like I said, you know, more efficient. It helps the town run better, helps us be more efficient with all the other departments, kind of all in the same category, you know what I mean? The select board are the main ones, and then we still want our professionals, so they still want, obviously, the sewer to have our professionals, because they're the professionals, right? They're the ones who know what to do. Water, same thing. And then the roadway commission, which is a very big part of it too, because we wanna make sure our roads are being, you know, expertise behind there, so. Again, I don't wanna say too much, because they're doing more discussion, but I did give you all the lingo and everything, so.
Yeah, I see that. So, like, for the facts on this, do we know, like, how many other communities are on the special legislation that this
This
about?
is very, very rare.
Very rare, yeah.
Oh,
We
yes,
went
1988, this is something that towns
Communism.
have, like I said, abolished. I think Uxbridge was one of them, they got rid of it. Majority of towns do not have this, it's not in the best interest of the town, I don't believe. I think it's important that, you know, everybody know where to go, what to do, how to navigate their positions and navigate their jobs and whatnot, and also make sure you have expertise and more efficiency in place. And that's basically the main point of this, is to be more efficient with the town and making sure everyone's pretty much on the same line.
Do you think it would cost the town money to do this?
No, why would, I don't believe it
You don't have
costs.
to hire new people.
No, because the roadway would be, an elected. So I don't understand why
So,
Which would be elected?
the roadway commission would be an elected 3
But-
board,
But the supervisor would be appointed.
appointed under the
Yeah.
select board, yes,
Which now the commission has to.
yes.
I guess the biggest question or concern I would have, would it make current employees have to reapply for their job?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. I mean, that's,
Oh,
the way I'm reading it,
there's
I'm like,
absolutely no way.
yeah, the way I'm reading it, I'm
Yeah,
like
no,
getting a
we're not
little
looking at
confused
that
by
at
it.
all, absolutely not.
Yeah. I will say, from dealing with a lot of DPWs, it does seem a little antiquated, you know, how it happens here. I've usually just seen the town administrator, then the DPW director, and then like, you know, that's it.
So the
It's
town
not,
administrator's like
uh,
in charge like the DPW, is that how you're saying it?
well, most towns that I'm in, you have the select board,
Mhm.
and then the town administrator runs the town, or the town
Exactly.
manager.
Well, my
runs-
bylaw does state that,
Yeah.
so if you notice, you'll see the town administrator
Yeah.
on here over and over again saying that I'd be the one appointing and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because on my bylaw, that's exactly what they put in there, so
Yeah.
technically, I guess, kind of would be something like that, select
Yeah.
board, town administrator,
Yeah.
highway superintendent.
I'm used to going in and, you know, dealing with low-level, mid-level,
Mhm.
say like a director position, and then
Well,
when
it'd
it
be
went
just like
to,
the chief of police, he
Yeah.
comes and anything that happens, he comes and he talks
Yeah.
to me about it.
Yeah.
You know, same thing with fire, you know, they come and talk to me, COA director, you know, the treasurer, the accountant. Anytime, anything that goes on throughout the day, they would let me know what's going on. I know usually everything that's going on. It'd be the same thing with the with the DPW superintendent, they would come and tell me what's going on, I'd have a knowledge as to what's going on within the town.
I like the idea of like everything going through a person. The CARES Act snafu, like, wouldn't have happened if one set of
Exactly.
eyes were on everything. It's frustrating, here we are thinking we're getting ahead every year, and every year there's like a setback, and it's like, hey, we found all this money, but it's gonna make us even.
Exactly.
It's,
I think it's important because, efficiency, like, that's exactly how, Mr. Dixon had mentioned it. Efficiency is key, I believe, it's gonna help us, it's gonna help me too,
Mhm.
because I'll know exactly what's going on. I need to know, I think as a town administrator, I should really know what's going on with all departments and what's going on, so I can either assist them, I can help them. I always will make time for any person,
Mhm.
that's my, if I have to stay until midnight, I will, and open my door to have a conversation with any employee that needs to happen. I even do that with residents, anything, I have like an open door policy for everyone, so having efficiency and being able to answer that phone call and being there so they can, whether it be a resident, whether it be an employee, that's my job.
one year we'll get ahead.
We're going to, we're heading in the right direction. Financially, we are heading in the right direction too. I know it's gonna be a little hard this year, and we're gonna get there.
Is there a reason there are article numbers missing from this
Again, this is just like
a rough draft? Okay.
literally a pure rough draft. It's a work in progress.
24, 25, and 6 are secret.
We didn't get access to those ones.
Try to guess what they are.
Article 27, was that proposed in the budget for the part-time assessor?
And that's not gonna really be on it, but that was
Okay.
working assessor, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, down the road, would I like to see that happen? Absolutely. I think they could
Yeah.
definitely use the help in that office and have someone really go out there and capture some
It
new
brings
growth.
money in.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right
no,
now-
I don't, yeah.
Right now, where we're fine line.
Yeah,
so.
we need to get everything approved as well, for our regular assessor, right?
Yes.
I just called, we bought new property, and, I called to find out, like, do we owe this tax bill? And, fortunately, I got the wrong answer, and my wife fought with me and said, no, I'm sending the money anyways. And luckily, we owed the money, and she paid it, and,
Is there a firm date on the town meeting? Have we firmed that up yet?
Oh, I thought I emailed you, June 25th, I'm sorry.
The 25th? I thought it was the 28th.
No, June 25th, 6:30, Bridles Lane. And
is
then
that their last day of school? No.
No,
Oh, the
that's
week before they get out, okay.
the week, yeah, they get out the week
Then I just need
before.
to verify with the selectmen, I was thinking June 11th for the public hearing.
That's gonna be a tough one for me.
Oh, is it, can you guys do Wednesday? What day do you guys usually do it?
We usually do it on a Tuesday, cause that was gonna be the town meeting was gonna be tough for me to make
All
it
right,
to.
so listen, maybe we can do the next public hearing at the next, what's the next,
We could do, I mean, if the committee's okay, we could always look at it maybe a different day.
do you wanna either come up with one that I can bring into the select board?
Let's see.
Okay, so June 25th, you're saying.
We normally do it the public hearing.
2 weeks prior.
2 weeks prior. The warrant's closed?
The warrant will be closed on the 28th of May, so I upped it because we have the,
Yep. Okay,
just wanted to be fair.
so there could still be some asks. 28th.
So that week of the 10, 11, 12, 13, that should be the week of the public hearing.
You
Yeah,
wanna try the 12th, Wednesday the 12th, I can see if it's good with the select board.
well, how does the committee feel about a different day other than a Tuesday?
And I'm in Rentham and I have to come out, but I'm the only one.
I'm fine with it. Seems like
I can see if I can get out early.
We could do it at the outlets.
Yeah.
In the beer garden,
Yeah, they all-
Not
yeah.
there.
I think that
That's how you get people to turn out for a town meeting. Yeah, public hearing. And we plan on doing the public hearing, I believe here, we're gonna try it here, see how it goes.
Get,
Yes.
Is
so
that
we'll
the
get
one
it
that we
online.
usually have at the
The senior center. Yeah, I mean, since I've been on the committee, there's been some years where there is like a little bit of a turnout, so the senior center makes sense for space, but the last like 2 or 3 years, the turnout hasn't been that great.
Watch this, you know, boom.
And
Yeah,
it'll
yeah,
be
no,
able to be
guaranteed.
recorded.
It'll be, that's a big thing, is being able to be recorded, yes, because the senior center doesn't have, we don't have the ability to bring
Right.
remote,
Right.
devices down there yet, right? We don't have like any sort of.
How's our
portable-
owls coming? Are they coming?
Not gonna lie, I have not ordered any owls yet, but it's something we need to work on, but right now I'm trying to get through this, this meeting, our annual town meeting.
Okay.
We're getting there, slowly but surely.
Well,
My budget's almost done though, just have a
is
few
it
more
gonna be
things to put in there.
time?
I mean, I'll leave it up to the committee, I mean,
No, it's fine with me.
So should we wanna try for Wednesday, June twelfth,
June
possibly?
12th, yeah.
You can tentatively, cause I'll make sure that the select board can also do it.
And that's at 6:30.
Well, we usually do the public hearing a little bit earlier, right? Because I think
Yeah.
we do like the full gamut, like we do the pledge and all
Right.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know.
On that additional meal tax, how does it work with, say, the 250th is bringing in food vendors in trucks? Like, how, do you tell the
Usually
truck,
6, I think. I'm sorry.
do you tell the truck like, hey,
That's really a good question.
Yeah.
I believe vendors is on there.
Okay.
I'm not 100%, but we can look into that.
because I know like, not often Stone Cow will have additional vendors, but when they have a bigger event, there's additional vendors there. I'm just curious, like, because that's when you want to capture it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I would imagine like a,
I would imagine
Food
too,
truck
because
would have
anything
to.
like, I think there's a list of this. Did I get the list on there?
Yeah. the list is-
yeah, it says right here, street wagons or carts,
Okay, good. There it is.
taverns,
Yep. Anything like that is, should automatically be,
social clubs,
ones
private
we
salad bars.
Yep.
Haven't seen a good salad bar in years.
Maybe they'll have one at,
Wagons and carts.
whenever they are turning the mill into.
Pretty much anyone that serves a prepared meal, for the most part, looks to be covered. I think the exception would be like, if it's like for donations or something like that.
right.
Those entities that aren't paying a meal tax already.
The kids don't have to pay it at school, right?
Yeah, the bake sale's not charging that.
Not the big sale, I was thinking like school lunches, like,
No.
you'll have parents melting down over that.
Oh, right, literally.
Yeah, charge $1.07 for a cookie.
As long as Maura Healy pays for it, I don't care. That's okay.
So we normally do the public hearing at 6 PM. So we did shift it to the 12th at 6 PM. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Works for me.
That Wednesday, yeah, I think I can make that.
And I'll see if I can get out earlier.
I'll mention it with the select board on Monday, then I'll send everyone an email.
Yeah, because they usually try to join us, at least most of them.
Yeah, because isn't that when I go down and write favorable or?
Yeah, we
I'm surprised
do
you
the
might have to guide me
favorable,
through it.
well, probably should meet to discuss the final budget,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? Because that's gonna be a
Yes.
discussion.
So do we have anybody else that needs to bring us a budget, or is this it now?
This is it.
So today's the 14th, so we'll probably meet, will there be a conflict if we meet on the 28th because of Memorial Day?
No, I can go. I'll have the budget that day.
May 28th?
Yeah.
That doesn't conflict with when the select, because I know sometimes the select board meet on a Tuesday
Oh.
after a holiday. Are they meeting that? Did they meet
Maybe.
yesterday?
No, we're meeting next week.
Okay, so it should be fine.
I think we're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
I think it's like a,
Because if
yeah.
they meet on the 20th, they won't meet
If
again.
not, I'll let you know right away.
Yeah.
But I think we're
They
fine.
could join us again. We just,
There you go. Yeah, 28th should be fine.
So
Okay.
we're not meeting on the 4th then?
no,
Why
20,
not the 4th?
20, yeah, well, pretty much every other week from here on. I mean, if we have a need to meet on the 4th, we can
We
determine
might need
that.
to meet on the 4th with the warrants. This will probably be, I'll send the budgets out as soon as I get them done. I just have a few questions because, so my budget on my side is pretty much almost complete. I just have to add a few more things. I just haven't, me and the town accountant are gonna work tomorrow on the FY '24 budget because they were a little, I'm trying to get the numbers to equal. I don't know why they're not equal, so I gotta see like what was encumbered, what was voided at special town meeting, so I can make sure I get the full picture. I wanna get the full picture, how much of a
Mhm.
percentage are we actually going up, that's important.
Yeah, and if we could get all of our numbers too, like what we have for total and all the funds, stabilization, capital stabilization.
So stabilize, which ones do you usually get, stabilization, capital?
Yeah, pretty much all of, we usually do a run, whatever's in usually the town report. We put all those
Do
pieces
you
in.
usually do OPEB, I'm assuming too?
Yeah, OPEB, anything that's financially related. Because the only thing I'm thinking is maybe the police cruiser goes, because we did put a good chunk of money into capital
Yeah, we
stabilization
could
last year.
definitely try that, that would probably be our best route right now.
That takes 2/3.
2/3 of a vote.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I see 4/5 on here, is that
I
correct?
don't know what 4/5 is. I know 9/10 and 2/3. 9/10 for like the bills that are from the following year.
Yeah.
2/3 to take out as stabilization, majority put in.
Well, I guess, yeah, that would be, I need 4/5, that's a new one. Any other questions, comments, and concerns from the committee for
Go on to
May 14th?
the school, I know.
Oh, yeah, the school so the school, this is their updated number for that Thursday?
Yes, if I hear anything more from them, I will
what is it?
let you know.
5.
So the 5.09%, an ask of 6,823,314, which looks like it's 400,000 left over the prior. Oh,
The way Monty Tech did their budget, where they showed you how they got to that,
That was
all the
nice.
guesswork, they did that last year too.
That was really good, and I
Yeah.
understood everything
Yeah.
you said, so.
it's that's one of the reasons I get frustrated with the Quabbin, because the one piece of the whole presentation that didn't have a number on it. All right, with that being said, I am ready to go home.
Did we already adjourn?
Not yet, we're working on it. We have a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. I'll have a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn
I'll second it.
and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, yeah, we're done.